How old are you?
47.
Okay. How did you become a coach at Baldwin High School?
How did I become? There was an opening, and I applied, and several of the coaches and athletic director interviewed me, and they called me up and said, "You got the job."
All right. What took it into applying for the job?
I had watched the team several years before, and my wife and I had been active in helping start a team, and I also coached several of the kids that were on there, including my son, in junior high. And so I felt that it would be a good time, since there was an opening, to give it a shot and help the program out.
All right. So before this, what did you do, like athletically, when you were in high school?
High school, I ran track. I also played basketball and football, all varsity. And then in college, I ran a year of college track in Michigan.
Okay. Only a year?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I was the captain of the track team, and as a freshman, and our coach, we didn't have very good uniforms, so our coach wanted us to take some of the money that the school gave us on away trips for lunches and dinners and not spend it all at the restaurants and use a portion of it for uniforms. And since I was a captain and several other people were, we were kind of in charge of doing that. Well, I got a letter in the mail that spring indicating that was against NCAA rules. And so that summer they wanted me to testify against the coach, and then the coach quit, and then we had a new coach, and things kind of broke down. I just decided it was a good time not to return to the track team. So, and I subsequently met my wife later that summer, so it was a good choice.
Yeah. So how did you meet your wife?
A typical college situation. We were at a local dance place, and I saw her walking toward me. I wonder what's going to happen here. And she walked past me, and she said, "Nice shoes." So I followed and asked her to dance, and the rest is history.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, or love for shoes at first sight. Right?
So have you ever gone through any serious injury or illness through your life?
Serious injury. Not a serious injury. I've been sick on and off, but nothing, major. Nothing major.
All right. Have you ever had what is the biggest challenge you've ever overcame or achievement you have attained?
I think that was probably academically, school-wise, the job I'm in. You get a PhD in political science. That experience, that was a challenge for me, and it took quite a while, and I had to make my mind up and move to a different state and several other things, and so that was the biggest challenge.
Okay. What is the biggest crisis you remember through your teenage years?
Well, teenage crisis.
Like something national, local.
A big event?
Yeah.
We lived, when I was in high school, we lived through a major recession, so it had been the late 70s, early 80s. And I can remember Jimmy Carter was president there, and he told us all to turn down our thermostats in the house, and my parents immediately did this. And there was an energy crisis, and everything was expensive. It was high inflation with high unemployment, so the economy was very difficult, and I just remember my house being very cold all the time. We lived up in Michigan, so it was very cold, and my parents had jobs, but a lot of people didn't, and that was a major national crisis at the time. I can remember also just the first couple years of college, the Challenger disaster. I don't know if you've heard in the history books where the spaceships that go up in Florida. This one was live on television for everybody to see, and inside the Challenger, they had astronauts, but they had a teacher. The first time you're going to take a kind of layman up, a teacher. And so all kids watched this. We were watching television, it went up, 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 and then poof, exploded. And that was kind of a crisis, national crisis.
Yeah. Do you remember where you were at when that happened?
Yeah, I was in my, I just woke up, and I was it wasn't a dorm room, it was an apartment I had just moved to, and I just turned it on, it was like the morning news, and we were all watching it, and poof,
Wow.
you know.
How does college today differ from the colleges you attended?
It's 360 degrees difference, mostly due to what college kids now have access to. When we were in the dorms, they were very Spartan, and the most you would have would be a black and white television that had rabbit ears on it, which is antennas, and you might get one or two channels. Today, full access internet, cable, all the things that we didn't have, you have today in terms of information access. So I think students today are much busier with a lot of different things, a lot of different possibilities, and more entertainment than ever to do things. As a result, the experience has got to be quite different. The social experience with Facebook and etc. So it's just much different. Telephone was the best we had, and I was 3 or 4 hours away from home when I moved to college, and I didn't talk to my parents or anybody from that town for 6, 8 months. Right? We just didn't do it. Now you're Facebooking people from all over the world, and you'll always remember your friends back in high school because you can always access them. So it's just much different.
I had a question in my head. How have your parents influenced you?
Well, first of all, they both were educators. One was a professor in college, and the other was a community college instructor. So I think that would be the biggest influence in terms of. You also often find teachers and families. Teachers become teachers, their kids. I would say that would be a big influence. And they always went to the sporting events that I participated in, and I always go to my kids' sporting events. That was a big influence too, I would say. So they got us started in that area, but probably education is the biggest.
Okay. And their names?
Dave and Nancy, they actually live in town here.
Okay. I think that's all, Coach.
Okay, great. Good questions.
Thank you. That's fine with me. It's recorded. So tell me more about the testimony you gave to the NCAA. That letter.
I didn't give testimony. I was asked to, and the letter came in the mail in the summer, and after my freshman year, and that was a kind of I was supposed to, and they never followed up on it with the players because the coach was fired, and he didn't take action himself against the university, so they just dropped it.
Okay. So you could have kept running, but you...
Yes, I could have kept running, but I took that as a sign.
Yeah.
I took that as a sign that I was probably done with my running career and in terms of college, and my mind was starting to move other places, and so I thought, good time to go. And they still hadn't hired a coach yet. They had an intermediary guy, and it was just a good time to leave.
Yeah, okay. Did you have any nicknames in your life?
Yes. From high school on, the first 3 letters of my last name is J-O-S, but they just, for short, it was Joz. And so J-O-Z, you could say that, Joz. And since my brother was older and much larger than me, it was Little Joz for much of my life.
Would you be mad if I called you Little Joz?
Yes, don't do it.
Okay. Craziest thing that happened to you in college, or you did? That's school appropriate, I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Craziest thing. We went to, I remember we're in Michigan, in close to the Upper Peninsula, up in here, North Grand. So the big thing in spring break Back in the 80s, they had lots of spring break movies. You probably could rent them now. They wouldn't seem like much, but they were big movies. And so we wanted to replicate that. And so we jumped in a Camaro, yellow Camaro, on spring break. We had a week. And in Michigan, everything rusts because of the salt on the road. And I remember looking down as we're driving, there was a hole in the bottom of this Camaro. 5 guys in that Camaro went all the way from by Grand Rapids all the way to not quite Miami. And it was about a 26-hour drive. And lots of interesting things along the way. And a very tiring vacation, if you can call it that. Fort Lauderdale, that's where we were at, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Right on the strip of Fort Lauderdale. And we tried to everything we could to replicate the scenes of spring break. We did a pretty good job.
So is there any movie in particular I should watch to remind
I
me
would
of
rent
what you
Spring
did?
Break. It's in the 80s, 1980, right in there, and that's where it was at.
Okay. And last question, happiest moment of your life that you can think of?
It'd probably be my firstborn when he was born. It was, I was happy with both, but I had never experienced anything like that, and it was quite an event. It's hard to describe, but when you see it, it's phenomenal, and it's a happy moment for sure.
That changed you a lot?
Yes, suddenly responsibility. Suddenly you're responsible for someone else, and you're not just kind of the guy in the house, you're the father, and things change. Things change. You're immediately change. And for the good though. It's about that time. I was 30, so that was about the time period where I had to kind of forget about those spring breaks and think about something else.
All right. Thank you.